David. I'll open up this meeting of the Planning Board. It is February 22nd, 2022. The time is 6:31, and I'll do roll call for members. Please confirm that you can hear me as well. Bob Brown.
I'm here and I can hear you fine.
Thanks, Bob. Jim Coleman.
Yes, I hear you fine.
Bill Crenshaw.
Yes, all set.
Thanks, Bill. Natalie, are you on, Natalie?
Yep. Hello.
Great, thanks, Natalie. And Annette, is Annette on tonight?
Yes, here.
Thanks, Annette.
I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Since this is a remote meeting, just give me one sec. So tonight's meeting is fully remote, full virtual. We have the options for accessing this meeting tonight are the Zoom call, but also the dial-in call-in number. Bill, for tonight's meeting, the first agenda item is
we have a
joint meeting, the presentation by Ralph Wilmer. Is that correct? Ralph, are you here tonight?
I am here.
Thanks, Ralph.
Good evening.
Bill, would you like to give an introduction to this at all, or should we just turn it over to Ralph?
I don't want to waste too much time, but essentially this was a grant made possible by from MAPC and the Office of Economic Affairs. It's been in the process about 2 years. It's a long-term planning vision. This is the first phase of it, and what Ralph is going to do is present sort of the synopsis of what was uncovered, and we will tell you where to find all the materials after that we've posted online as well. So if I just introduce Ralph and we can get going, if you're okay with that, Mr. Chair.
Please, Bill, go ahead.
Okay, so Ralph Wilmer is the principal planner for the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, longtime planner, and I will. Oh, there it is. Okay, Ralph, I'm going to turn it over to you, and thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you. And you're going to share the screen with the presentation, Bill?
Bill's muted, but I'm pretty sure that he said yes. I'm getting good at lip reading from the Zoom calls.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while he's doing that, this is a project that was funded in part by MAPC through our Technical Assistance Grant Program. And then we worked with the town to obtain additional funds through the Planning Grant Program that is run by the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. So as Bill mentioned, we did start this project a couple of years ago, and it was designed to involve the town of Acton as well. And it was a good collaborative effort between the two towns as we work through the project. So next slide, please. This next slide just introduces the project team members. I won't go through it in great detail, but as I mentioned, it involved members from the town of Maynard, the town of Acton, as well as MAPC, and I was the project manager for it. Next slide. So this is a quick map of the study area. It essentially runs from the Stop and Shop Plaza in Acton along Powder Mill Road to about the edge of the downtown area of the town of Maynard. And I'll go over some of the highlights of the study area map as we go through the next few slides. So next slide. So why are we studying Powder Mill Road? There were a lot of opportunities that that are addressed by looking at this entire corridor. It's about 1.5 miles long. But there are also, a number of different issues that we wanted to look at as we got into this project. So the highlights are that Powder Mill Road serves as a gateway to downtown Maynard and its Assabet Village Cultural District. Its location includes Acton's Technology District, the Powder Mill Plaza, numerous large businesses as well as some small businesses. It encompasses a number of residential neighborhoods as well. The future Beijing Royal School site is located along the corridor. The proximity to the Assabet River provided a number of opportunities that I'll discuss in more detail as well. And it also showed a lot of challenges as well as opportunities regarding multimodal transportation along the corridor. Next slide. So regarding access, there along the Powder Mill Corridor study area, there was somewhat limited access to the Assabet River. There is a canoe launch in Acton, but it was not incredibly visible. In fact, that sign that's in the photo runs parallel to the road, so people aren't really aware of it, but it's a site that was recently improved to some extent to include some parking and picnic benches. There are also a couple of other sites. There's an impoundment, and there's also the Powder Mill Dam, and all of these issues were discussed as we thought about access to the river. Next slide. So the dam is showed there, as well as a photo elsewhere. This is on the Maynard side of the study area, the right-hand side photo. But we saw that there were a lot of opportunities where the river abuts some of the lots on the northern end of the study area, where better access could be provided. When you look at some of these sites, the viewpoints to the river and so on and so forth are pretty pronounced. There's a number of trails on the other side of the river, and we tried to think about ways in which access to the river could be enhanced. And that'll be discussed in more detail toward the end of the presentation. Next slide. So we also noted a number of different issues and challenges regarding the streetscape and how transportation opportunities were identified along the corridor, but also some of the challenges. And this slide highlights some of the challenges that were faced. We found numerous obstacles along the sidewalks, such as some of these telephone poles on the left-hand side photo. There's poor pavement condition in a number of places. There's a lack of curbing that creates a safe separation between the roadway and pedestrian walkways. Similarly, in the next photo, you see that the crosswalks are faded, so there just wasn't that many places where people could feel safe as they crossed the streets that ran into Powder Mill Road. The next photo is one of my favorites, actually. It's what I call an ADA curb ramp to nowhere. You see the curb ramp, but then it's interrupted by the curbing of a parking lot, so it serves no useful purpose. So we found a number of other obstacles to safe pedestrian traffic. And then there are portions of the roadway that have no sidewalks or curb cuts or curbing. So there's no separation for cyclists and so on and so forth. So we made a number of different recommendations regarding pedestrian and cycling safety. There are also some areas where the right-of-way is interrupted by private property owners. Next slide. At the same time, we found a number of different opportunities for doing some planning into the future of for land use along the roadway corridor. There are residential opportunities. There are sites for ongoing or future residential development and mixed use development that meet community goals that have already been identified in Maynard's housing production plan and master plans. We looked at those plans for ways to further implement some of the recommendations. In terms of commercial opportunities, there are sites that offer commercial amenities or services to residents and visitors. And by rethinking some of the priorities in zoning, those opportunities can be further enhanced. River access, as we've talked about, there are a number of sites that could offer key access or viewpoints to the Assabet River. And then in terms of pedestrian and cycling infrastructure, there are sites that could help guide streetscape improvements so that we can enhance the access and safety for both pedestrians and cyclists. Next slide, please. So there are a number of different opportunity sites that are they include Powder Mill Plaza, the Acton Canoe launch that I mentioned earlier, the apartments at Powder Mill Place. It's a number of new residents that are coming into the area that could take advantage of any businesses that get located within the corridor. The Beijing Royal School, which is obviously a project that is still moving forward. And the pandemic has interrupted their plans for in terms of the timing, but they're still moving forward with the school, and this will bring a number of new residents and employees to the area. And then there are a few other commercial sites as well.
Hey, Ralph, I'm sorry. This is Greg Johnson, the town administrator. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Huh?
I'm also on a not a great computer, so I apologize. I'm probably coming in.
So were you going to?
Greg, we can't hear you, Greg.
Yeah, we lost Greg for a minute. Greg,
Can you hear us?
we can't hear you. Maybe Greg, could you, if you have an opportunity to put it in the chat, that's another option, Greg. And I'll read it out loud for you. Ralph, why don't you continue on, and
Okay.
we'll get back to Greg.
So a quick summary of the land use and zoning recommendations.
Sorry, guys. I have to chime in. I think what Greg is trying to say is that we are at capacity in this meeting. Unfortunately, our Zoom only allows for 100 people. We're in the process of upgrading, but I don't have that permission today. And so it's a violation of open meeting law to have a meeting that has people that aren't able to participate. So I think we might have to reschedule. I am so sorry for this inconvenience. Bill, we might have to, I don't know what to do about the.
Yeah, probably the best thing to do right now. It's being live streamed on Facebook, correct?
Yeah.
So if we could ask everybody that can to go on Facebook, they will free up some spots in the Zoom. And this is taped and we'll be able to watch it, but I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but if you could go on Facebook and watch it, it would help us with the capacity issue. And I see people are cooperating already. Thank you so much. We're down to 89. And I promise you, we will get you the tape as well, but you don't have to miss a thing if you go on Facebook.
Megan, would you mind putting the link to the Facebook Live in the chat?
Yeah.
If you have it available.
Yep, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Good problem solving, Bill. And I'm so sorry to interrupt. This is the first time it's happened and we are upgrading to 300. So I did not expect this to be so popular, but we're thrilled it's popular. And thank you to everyone who's helping out. I'm going to put this in the link in right now.
It's a good sign in a way. So.
Yeah, I've been involved in so many of these Zoom meetings over the last couple of years, and this is the first time I've seen this happen. But
okay, so
is there something else on your agenda that's attracting all the people, or is it purely Powder Mill Road?
It's planning, planning stuff.
Oh, I know that.
All right. I'm gonna take back control of this, guys. Greg or Megan, can you confirm that we have remediated the challenge? Okay, so
Yeah,
we
we have.
remediated the challenge. We're not in violation of open meeting law as we stand now. Let's maybe Ralph, pick it back up, maybe from your last start of your last talking point, perhaps.
Okay,
Is that okay?
you want to go back a slide or two, Bill?
Yeah, just a quick recap so that we can all catch the thread again.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, I'll restart here. So we saw a number of different opportunities along the Powder Mill Road study area. And those include residential opportunities, that there are a number of sites where ongoing residential and mixed use development is occurring, as well as some potential future sites. And these sites meet the community goals and recommendations from both the housing production plan and the master plan. So we used those plans as one of our guides as we made recommendations for the Powder Mill corridor, which I'll get into in a couple of slides. There's also a number of commercial opportunities, and I'll talk about that again in the next slide, but there are a number of commercial sites that offer a number of amenities and services to residents and visitors. And as more residential is developed throughout the area, that will enhance the commercial opportunities as well. They go hand in hand. In terms of river access, as I was mentioning earlier in the meeting, we have a number of sites that could offer key access to the Assabet River, as well as viewpoints to the river. So we wanted to identify that. And then we made recommendations to help guide streetscape improvements that would enhance safety and access for both pedestrians and cyclists. So a number of opportunity sites were studied and looked at in more detail as reported in the plan itself. They include the Powder Mill Plaza, the Acton Canoe Launch that I mentioned earlier, the apartments at Powder Mill Place. A whole bunch of new apartments are being built there, which leads to more residents populating the area that can service the commercial establishments along the corridor. The Beijing Royal School, which obviously has been somewhat delayed by the pandemic, is moving forward. So there'll be a number of new residents and employees occupying that space, and therefore will be available for to help out the commercial businesses along the corridor. And there's several other commercial developments as well, and some of the zoning recommendations are designed to provide more opportunities for redevelopment of those sites as the property owners see fit.
I'm seeing a notice from somebody on the chat here that apparently the Facebook portion of this has lost audio, so they can only see, they can't hear. I don't know if that's true for everybody on Facebook or if it's just this individual, but just to
David, are you referring to the chat in the?
There was a chat. A chat came through that just said we're on Zoom and lost audio.
If that's referring to Zoom, it seems that's referring to Zoom, not Facebook. But if Megan,
good point.
We could.
Good point. Then I'm hearing everything.
So this is how we'll proceed. Megan or Greg, can you just check to make sure that the Facebook audio is working? And if it's not, pause us. But please continue, Ralph.
Okay.
Thanks.
So just to summarize some of the land use and zoning recommendations that are in the plan, we're looking to, we recommend creation of an overlay zoning district that would cover the entire study area. An overlay district is a special zoning district that's placed over the existing zoning, but it provides new opportunities for development. We included in that overlay district is an expanded list of allowable uses to encourage a greater mix of retail and restaurants, hotels and inns, entertainment, office, education, medical facilities, so on and so forth, to create more opportunities for new businesses to serve the residents, but also to provide, to create a place so that people come to Powder Mill Road for a variety of reasons, not just to go to the stores, but also to live, work, and play, essentially. In terms of housing, we wanted to encourage a mix of housing types, including mixed use and multifamily. As I mentioned, this is consistent with the recommendations in the housing production plan. We also looked at parking to create more flexible and shared parking, with a desire to try and place the parking along the side or the rear of buildings so that it's not in front of the buildings, and to incorporate landscaping regulations that would help to reduce stormwater runoff. Additionally, we make recommendations to adjust some of the dimensional regulations to encourage redevelopment. That would include reducing some of the minimum lot sizes. We found that a number of lot sizes within the study area are already smaller than the existing minimum lot sizes per the zoning. So this would just bring a little bit more conformance into those lot sizes, decreasing the front yard's setback and to increase building height with a special permit, so that there's, again, more flexibility for development, particularly for mixed use that typically has commercial on the first floor and residential above it. We also looked at some design guidelines to encourage neighborhood scale. And then we added landscaping and buffering and screening to ensure compatibility between abutting uses. Then this is a slide that just shows some examples of mixed-use development from other communities within the MAPC region. In terms of Assabet River access recommendations, within the zoning, we looked at establishing setbacks from the river and creating minimal usable open space requirements to ensure a healthy and accessible riverfront. So this is to provide open space opportunities, but also to ensure protection of the riverfront. We look to encourage the use of green infrastructure. And I'll show some examples of that, to control stormwater without necessarily getting into hard engineering requirements, but using the natural landscape as a way to provide stormwater protection, and considering incentives to provide river access. So if a developer wanted to look to, for instance, establish a restaurant in the area, they could provide access to the river through their property as a way to get that access to the river from private property. We also encourage creating viewpoints and/or a river walk from private properties, encouraging protection of the riverfront. And that's done in conjunction also with Conservation Commission rules and regulations regarding riverfront protection, and also to look for more public-private partnerships with organizations such as the Organization for the Assabet River. So this shows just another couple of opportunities. The picture on the left is, I talked earlier about the wide open viewpoints of the river within the corridor study area. And this is at the edge of one of the commercial developments in Maynard that just shows, how much opportunity there might be to try and provide access. Right now, it's a fairly steep slope with a fence. And the photo on the right is from the senior housing project in Maynard. And there's a fence there as well. And that fence could be opened up to provide more direct access to the river. Next slide. In terms of streetscape, the plan shows two different options. The first option would be more of a low cost and shorter term option to restripe the corridor to provide complete street features. The town has already undergone the process for doing some design work for complete streets. But you can see that this restriping could provide for safer pedestrian ways as well as bikeway, bike path option as well. And the next slide shows a reconstruction option that would obviously entail more design, greater funding, and construction work, but it includes incorporation of green infrastructure, street trees, sidewalk amenities such as benches and planters, driveway design guidelines, lighting, and safety features that would incorporate the design requirements of the Americans with Disability Act, and it would eliminate encroachment into the right-of-way. So some of the green infrastructure design features that we talk about, the left-hand photo is for permeable pavement, so that the pavement actually allows the water to seep through as opposed to draining off into other areas. The middle photo shows a drainage swale that's all made with native plantings as a way to, so the stormwater can be funneled directly into that feature as opposed to a typical sewer situation. And the photo on the right shows an increased tree canopy to provide more shading and to reduce the heat island effect that parking lots tend to have that would raise the temperature in that area. And I think that is the final slide, so I will turn it back to the boards to see how they want to proceed.
Thanks, Ralph. Great presentation, and I really appreciate your time on all this and all the effort that you've put into it. I'd also like to thank all the members of our community, and I know it's a small thing that was done, but I'd just like to thank everyone that jumped from Zoom to the Facebook Live that allowed us to continue. It's a small thing, but it does show that this community is really good at working together to help each other out, so I appreciate that. I saw some good feedback in the chat. And so, Bill, I would like to be able to preserve that feedback that was given from our members of the community. Also, to the members of the community, if after watching this presentation, if you feel like there's something you'd like to share about this, I think a good thing you could do is write an email to either Bill Nemser or Megan Zamuto and just title it "Feedback on the Powder Mill Corridor Initiative," so that they can collect your feedback on this initial presentation. Community feedback is going to continue to be immensely helpful for us as we plan out this initiative. The time is 7.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, or if
Yes.
our Acton friends,
Sorry.
they can send to Kristen. Is Kristen on here? I think. And Kristen Gouchard and Acton, she's can take it as well.
Thanks, Bill, for the reminder. I apologize to our Acton friends that have joined tonight. I overlooked that part of it. So yes, thank you, Bill, for that reminder. Bill, I'm willing to give another 5 minutes to this. If there's anything further you would like to add, or David, if there's anything further that you would like to add as well, I'll give the floor to Bill first.
I think that it's clear that there's a lot of interest in this, and it certainly is going to warrant another forum. But we're establishing, we have a page already, which hopefully everybody's been on, but it's on, can navigate to it from the Maynard site. And what I would like to do, if we don't, because we're not going to get to everybody tonight, but we can create a FAQ page, And so if we get some good feedback from this, we'll address that. And then you could reach out to me. We'll create a mailing list that I think most of you are on the mailing list already, but we will make sure that we have additional forms as well.
And Bill, I can work with you on answering questions that have been put in the chat to incorporate into the FAQ if that's where you want to go.
Thank you, Ralph.
May I
Thanks,
ask
guys.
a question?
Hold on one second, Ann, if you don't mind. David, did you have any final
No,
thoughts
what
on
I
this
what
first?
I would first off, I want to thank everybody who was part of the team to come up with the with the vision. The vision of Powder Mill, the Powder Mill corridor is, I think, extremely important to the future of Maynard's development, because really, as we've discussed as a Maynard board and as a community, that there's not much else. Not many other areas in our community that are developable at this point. And I think that it's important to have a plan and to understand what the plan is to move forward and to really get excited about it. Some of this stuff was really intriguing and exciting. And when you see some of these photographs from behind some of the buildings that none of us have probably ever even been to, and see the opportunities that exist along the river and the potential that is there, it's extraordinarily exciting to see. So I would ask members of the select board, Maynard Select Board, if there are any questions that we have. Otherwise, we can continue the conversation at our meetings, as we will, and presumably have continued meetings with the planning board on this issue as we move forward on what the next steps may be. So if any members of the Maynard Select Board have any comments to make, please feel free to make those comments now with the full audience that's here, and then we can bring it up at a future meeting. This is not going to go away. This is I think this is the future of the community. It's just the way we get there. I also think it's important, before I turn the table over to, or the floor over to other members of the board, that we are well aware, as the select board and the community in Maynard is well aware of our needs from water and sewer infrastructure that would be required for us to develop somewhat greater opportunity for residential as well as commercial building along that stretch. But we are doing everything we possibly can, and we're getting some good news along the way as to positive moves forward to get some of our needs accomplished. So that's all good. That's all part of the good news picture as well, and will go a long way in building our future. So members of the board, if you have any comments, feel free to speak up now. I don't see any, so we're done with our portion. So Chris, if you want to take questions from the audience too,
Thanks. Just have a couple final things. The planning board we're planning to set up during one of our future meetings, a conversation around this. So this will become a item that gets discussed at a planning board hearing in the future. Bill, we don't have that scheduled yet, do we? Our next meeting?
No,
next time we're going to meet for this?
We don't have that scheduled. We have a couple of other special projects. Oh, I'm sorry. We did have a powder mill discussion scheduled for 45 minutes on March 8th. We do.
Okay.
Right.
So for those that are listening tonight, the next planning board meeting on March 8th, we are setting aside 45 minutes to discuss this corridor initiative. Feel free to please join us, and we will be opening it up to the public for input during that time. It's 7:05. I will take. I'm going to take two questions from the public. First, will be from Ann Chang.
Yes, I'm wondering if you have contacted the Maynard superintendent or the Acton Boxborough High School superintendent about the Beijing schools. The reason I ask is that the Beijing school is supposed to bring children from China, supposedly, but it's also a charter school, which will impact the budgets of both of those high schools. So I'm wondering whether the superintendents of those high schools know about this.
I'm going to allow either David or Greg possibly to answer that question. I don't have that.
Yeah, we are, from the Maynard perspective, the Maynard schools are very excited about the opportunity of that school coming. And there has been a lot of communication with the Maynard School Committee as well as the superintendent of schools relative to how we can work together with that organization once they come to sort of work together to integrate the two schools. That's from Maynard's perspective. Can't speak entirely of what the school's plans are, but I know that they are excited about it, looking to work together. Not looking at it as a potential drain at this point, but more so as an opportunity to expand.
Thanks, David. So I'm going to take one more. So the point of tonight was to initiate this through the Powered Memorial Corridor Initiative through this initial presentation by Ralph. We're going to have lots of further engagement with the community on this subject. So I'm going to take one more question, and it's a caller that I can only read as call-in user 1 that has its hand raised. If you may, caller, you're welcome to come off mute and ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, can you please identify yourself for the record?
Yes, this is Sarah from Acton. And I have a couple of questions. My first question is that during the presentation, I heard a lot of things about encouraging that the design guidelines, et cetera, will encourage this or encourage that. And in my experience, is that if it's not required, then it's not going to happen. So I encourage it to be required to have river access and to have all this wonderful stuff that you are proposing, because in my experience, it just doesn't happen. I mean, I don't know what pictures there are because I can't see it, but that's the first thing. The second thing is regarding water. It's my understanding that that Maynard is having trouble finding water. I know that Acton, there's a lot of people concerned about water in Acton and the PFAS situation, et cetera. And so I'm wondering whether anybody's looked at how much growth and development that the aquifers can handle, because I believe each of the towns get their water from ground sources. So I'd like answers to both of those questions, and I'll take that offline. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Two wonderful points. In general, I believe Ralph's recommendations were to encourage us to adopt certain zoning regulations themselves. And you're correct, Sarah. Sometimes if things are important, it's important to put them into the regs as requirements. So it's always something, it's a good point to consider. Regarding water, I can't comment on Acton. I'm not familiar with Acton's scenario. But for Maynard's been spending a lot of time planning for water sustainability for the town. And this is one of our highest priorities. It's in the master plan. And it's something that is on the radar of all that are in staff and all the different boards that are participating in support of this community. Greg or David, is there anything further you want to say on the question regarding water?
No, I think you've said it quite well. We are certainly well aware of the concerns that we have. I think perhaps the perception that Acton might have about Maynard's situation with water may be a bit exaggerated. We have some difficulties, but we're not at a critical stage. We could be if we expanded too fast and too far without being aware. But I think we're comfortable where we're at, and I think that we have good things on the horizon. Good news to come very soon.
Thanks, David. Okay, so that's all for tonight on the Powder Mill Corridor Initiative. Ralph, thanks again for your time. Bill Menzer, thank you for helping us line this all up. And thanks to all the other members that have contributed.
Thank you.